back to your question of balancing, I spend more time training than I do making videos. Like I'll go on a binge and make like 3 or 4 YouTube videos, but I'm thinking about videos all the time. It's like it's where my brain goes. And but my ultimate goal is really to play at the highest level. It's just so much fun. Like I want to become a top 10 player. It's a goal of mine. But like more than anything, I'm obsessed with practice. I love to practice. I love going out and like getting better.
Okay, we have Kyle Koszuta on the podcast, also known as Kyle ThatPickleballGuy. He is a guy who was a 5-0 when I first met him. I first met him in Nashville. He came down to do content with Selkirk, and then he just kept playing, and he got good because I played him in Beer City a couple weeks ago, and he took a game off of Althoff and I in the pro bracket. So he's not just doing content, he's also playing pro, and he's getting good, and he's famous now if you've seen his Instagram. So thank you for taking the time of the day to come on my podcast, Kyle. How you doing?
That was the nicest thing you ever said to me.
I know.
It was the nicest thing. In fact, let me start with a compliment for you. I think when you first started your pod, I was like, oh, James, he's got a good sense of humor of sorts. And then I was like, this will be great. And I texted our friend Chris Olson. I said, have you listened to the first episode? He's like, I have, but listen first, then we'll debrief. So I was like, all right. So I went and I listened. I don't even remember who was on it, frankly, because I only got about 3 minutes in. And I texted Chris and I said, James may be the worst podcast host I've ever heard. And I haven't listened to an episode. I'm assuming you've gotten better. We're going to find out now. But I texted Chris. In fact, I called him and I said, Chris, did you hear that? He said, I heard it. I said, it was bad. He goes, worse. It was horrible.
Wait a second. My first ever podcast guest was Chris.
It was Chris. That's actually why we recognize so deeply how bad you were at hosting.
Ah, yes. You got that firsthand experience.
Yeah, it wasn't that you're so we thought we recognized really quick. We said James is better because I heard you on Chris and Will's pod in person when we were in Nashville. And we said, yeah, he's a really good guest, but as a host, gosh, he needs mentorship.
I do. I mean, it's a different game. Hosting, you've got to have notes. You've got to ask the questions yourself. You've got to keep everything moving. It's a different animal. And but I'm a rep guy. I need the repetitions. I need to just have a bunch of people on. That's why I have you on. We don't know if this is even going to get posted. I'm just getting my reps in right now. That's
right. It makes sense. And I'm a little disappointed of how many guests you've had before you've asked me to be on. But I'm assuming it's because you know that I'm so critical and I hold you to such a high standard. You didn't want to come too soon.
Exactly. I needed to get I needed to get Chris out of the way. I needed to get Anna Lee out of the way, Anna, all these different, these no names. And then now I've got you on because I'm seasoned. I'm seasoned now.
Understood. No, I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, clearly you seem glad. You seem really glad to be here. So we actually first met. I was in school at Vanderbilt. And Selkirk reached out to me. They're like, do you want to have these 3 guys come? Pickleball Will, Chris Olson, and that pickleball guy, Kyle. And they're going to come down for a whole week. You guys are going to do content together like every day for this week. And my first thought was like, not really. But then I watched your stuff, watched Chris's paddle reviews. And then I was even more against it. But I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
So they brought you guys down. We were grinding for like a whole week and we got a bunch of content and we had a really good time. So I don't know about your experience from that week, but for me, we basically roasted Chris. If anybody at home is familiar with Chris Olson, it was kind of all 3 of us just ganging up on Chris Olson for that entire week period. So
we were preparing him for what we knew was to come for him as he got more famous in the pickleball world. Yes. But yeah, that was that was a fun week. We did go hard for like 3 days. We filmed for like 5 or 6 hours, creative stuff. In fact, I just came across the picture of you and me somewhere on Instagram. If Colin, if you're editing this, go find it on my Instagram. But we like I earned you or something, and I remember I smashed onto your back, and it's just like me hitting the ball at you, and you're like turned around, like, oh no. But yeah, that was really the first time we met. I had high hopes for our friendship. This is the first time we've spoken since.
For those at home, that's true.
This is actually a bone I have to pick with you. I see you at tournaments and we know each other. Like we clearly have spent time together. Probably in those 3 days we spent like 30 hours together. And when I see you at tournaments, maybe you can explain it for the people I'm interviewing you now. You're so maybe zoned in or like antisocial or just awkward that when I see you, you don't actually even make eye contact. You just walk past, and I'll like kind of look up to be like, hey, James, hey, friend, James. And you'll just continue walking. And then I'll kind of turn around and be like, I think we're friends, but he doesn't, I don't know, actually. Anyway, you guys want to go drill? And that's kind of how my conversation at tournaments go.
Yeah, for me at these tournaments, I've got a lot of people coming up to me. I've got a lot of people that are like, fans, I guess. And there's pros and then there's fans. And the other pros, like I'm talking to the other pros because I feel like they might have something valuable to say, right? Or they might have some insight that I'm interested in that helps me, succeed because I'm working on these weekends. I'm there to work. I'm there to succeed and do well. And then I see you, and it's not necessarily the same. You're not a fan, just a fan, but closer to fan in my eyes than pro. And for me,
I'm not only a fan. Yeah, I understand.
You're better than a fan. You might not be a fan at all, actually.
But I'm typically just looking for an autograph from you. But anyway, let's get on to the show. What are we talking about?
So we got to talk about the Seattle Open recap. Anna and I, we got to the finals of mixed. Basically didn't play our best in the quarterfinals. We were down 7-2. I don't know if you saw this match, but in the quarterfinals, we were down 7-2 in the third game against Christian Alshon and Tyra Black, two up-and-comers who played really well. And at 7-2 in that third game, Christian hit a forehand winner, I guess, and he screams right at me. And he says, "Who's your daddy?" Screams it right in my face. And this is true. You guys can go back and look at the tape. And then I think Anna and I proceeded to win like the next 9 out of 10 points. And from there, I think that kind of, lit a fire under me. I don't really know how it happened because usually I don't really pay attention to my opponents. But there, I just felt like I had to share that,
There's a topic in that this might be interesting to talk about, which is like trash talking pickleball, because almost exclusively, or when you have some crazy hands battle, you being like whoever, crazy hands battle, or a great defense turned to offense and something crazy happens, and then you win a point and you go nuts and you give the stare down. Nearly every time you miss the third into the net on the next ball, right? Or like the next like 3 out of 4 is like miss third, pops a dink,
I have
whatever on the
that.
Right. No, that's my experience, right? And it's always funny to me because it's like it almost seems like it's like it gets me going. But then you look at the whole body of work over an entire match. A lot of times I feel like it works. There's a couple guys you could look to and be like that definitely works for him. But I don't know, man. 9 out of 10 points after Who's Your Daddy? That doesn't sound like good odds if I'm Christian.
No. I think some people are built for it and some people aren't. Some people are soft and some people are not soft. And Christian kind of falls into that other category. And I think it's tough because for me, when I play, I don't really talk trash much. I just kind of talk to myself. Like I'll just say, I'll say, come on, or see, or whatever, but I'm talking to myself. And I think that if you're kind of focused on like trying to get in the other person's head or like say something that'll make the other person play bad or whatever, like, which is traditionally what trash talk is, it doesn't really work. I mean, I don't think it's a good way to be like thinking about the sport. Like for me, I think it's better to just be in the flow, not thinking, just playing the game. And if you get
Yeah.
out of that, then things get dicey.
I think it works for fewer people than like I think more people think it works for them.
Yeah.
But I think there's really like few like Riley, like it clearly works for Riley. Right.
Yeah.
Riley's like gets in your face and then he doesn't even think about it again. He just like keeps going.
Yeah.
Whereas I personally think if I was getting in your face, I would actually be thinking about, oh shoot, I just got in his face. Like, don't miss this next third. That'd be a really bad look.
Yeah.
Versus, so just like I'm the same way. I'm just talk to myself, talk to my partner, and move on. But hey, really quick, I got a question for you. I haven't watched the finals yet because it wasn't on YouTube, but I just saw, I think it got posted, so I was gonna watch. And was it the finals? I saw Dane Gingrich put that post out there. Apparently you were getting roasted in the comments of Facebook or something. Was that the finals interview or?
Yeah, that was the finals. So they interviewed us after we lost. And first of all, I don't think that's a good idea. You shouldn't be interviewing people after they lose, especially not people like me who are just not mature. And
right.
I said, did you see the interview? I'll tell the viewers.
Anyway. Yeah, I didn't see the interview, but I saw what he said. You said it's not the NBA, it's just pickleball, I think was the line.
Yeah, like she asked me, she's like, James, you've gotten so far in 2 years. How did you do it? I'm like, well, it's not like I broke into the NBA in 2 years. Like it's just pickleball.
Right.
Not really that hard. And then on Facebook, it wasn't the Instagram crowd that was obsessed with me. It wasn't the
right.
Twitter crowd. It was the Facebook crowd. And the Facebook crowd is above the age of 50, almost always. And they don't necessarily have the same perspective as me. Because there was, I think, you can go on the pickleball clinic. It's like 200 comments. Like most of the comments are like, James is disrespectful of the game of pickleball. It's like,
right.
Maybe I am. I don't know. But that is.
I think it. No, I mean, well, I do think your point that you just said is true. It's like there's no other. Maybe there's another sport like curling potentially. Or like chess, but like you're not. I'm at 29. I'm not going to decide. I'm going to try to become a pro basketball player. Like I play college basketball, and it's like, yeah, I'll just like work my way up and like gain speed and be able to like play like Steph. Like, no, I'm not even going to make the G League at this point in my life, right? I had a chance maybe a while ago, but now I'm playing pro pickleball. It's like, yeah. Well, so did you read Dane's post?
I did. I read Dane's post. It was nice. I don't even think it was necessary. Like when I saw those Facebook comments, I just thought it was hilarious. Like I'm one of those people. I don't know how many people actually love getting hate comments, but I actually like it. Like it makes me, it's fun. It really is like, it's something I shouldn't look at. It's probably not good, but it really, I'm not like saying it like fuels me to work hard. It's just like, it's fun. It's cool. Like 2 years ago.
I feel the same way.
Yeah. Like 2 years ago, nobody knew who I was. Or even less than. And now I've got people that are talking about me. Like that's kind of fun.
I liked your perspective. I don't know if this was an interview or you said this somewhere, but you said like 2 years ago you were driving Uber or something. It was after you tweeted this, I think, or something. And like a post and it said 2 years ago I was driving Uber, now I'm playing pro pickleball. It's like I do really think in all seriousness, just it is crazy. Like the life that both of us are living now, like we're both just traveling around playing pickleball tournaments full time. Like I go out and I practice. I'm going to make a video. You're going to do a podcast, whatever. And it's like 2 years ago, I didn't know what pickleball was. I did have another job I liked, but I do look up and I'm like, even on the worst days, we're still just like going out and dinking and like doing a podcast, then flying from state to state. It's like the worst days are still great, you know?
They are. Yeah. It's easy to keep perspective for me. Like, I think it's because I've had like some really not great jobs. Like I worked at a Chinese restaurant for an entire summer and I was not treated that well. Like it's just not, I haven't had great jobs. Right. And now I'm playing pickleball and it's like, okay, this is a lot better than anything I could have had to do or would have had to do. But on that topic, I will ask you this. I don't really know if the viewers are interested in this. I'm not necessarily interested in this, but I'm going to ask you because you're on the podcast. What is it like for you balancing the life of being a pro pickleball player to a certain degree and doing content?
I wish that the real quick for answer that question at Beer City last weekend. Number one, we should have won that in 2. You guys snuck the first game 11-9. I think we were up 9-8, and you guys, whatever. No comment from you, please. I'll do the talking here. But yeah, you guys snuck that, and then they took the stream down. Like, it was streaming with no commentators, so there's not even a stream. I probably have to go hunt down Boxcar Productions, which I probably will do in order to get the stream back up. But I just want to let the viewers know, the 2 or 3 people, Mom and Miss Ignatowich, thanks for watching. That I think I earned you 8 times in the game. I think you earning me 6. And I think this is kind of like it'd be funny to go back and pull the clips, because we both were earning each other on the same exact, like the same way over and over. And Pace turned to me, he's like, hey man, maybe don't hit that dink, over there. And I think, and Peso, he's like so kind. He's like, hey man, maybe just like don't do that. I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. Next 3 possession, I do the same thing. And I think I heard Althoff just turn to you and be like, hey man, maybe don't hit that dink, over to Kyle. And you were like, yeah, I got you. And the next 3 possessions, I like completely earned you, which was a hilarious back and forth. We need the footage.
I know that says a lot about who we are, just mentally, right now.
I'm curious. I'm going to answer your question. I'm curious. I know what you'll say to this, but I actually am curious who watches more pickleball matches. Like, who would be top 10 in watching film? Like, I know, like, I remember when we were together in Nashville, we were filming in multiple places. So we were going from one venue to the next, and you were literally in the back seat. Like, me and Chris and Will were talking, and we're like, James, what do you think? Like, do you want to get Starbucks? Or you're like, sorry, it's 6-9-2. I'm watching the 2017 like US Open. And but like, I'm the same way in that, like every night I don't really watch Netflix shows that much, occasionally, but I just like go watch every match. Like, I wasn't in Seattle last week, but I just go watch every single match back. How many hours a week do you think you spend watching games?
It used to be higher. It used to be like probably 15 to 20. So what is that, like 2 to 3 hours a day? Yeah, it was usually probably in my prime of watching, maybe above 20. But right now it is maybe 10 hours a week or less. And it's mostly just my own highlights. But
which actually is really easy because you're on center a lot. So you can just like watch that footage back.
Yeah, so. Only the wins. I don't really watch the losses that much anymore. I'm just, it's more of like a self-serving thing. It's not good. It's not.
I actually don't think that's self-serving. I spent some time, I was doing a basketball camp last week. My old job, I still like run some camps in the summer. And the guy who I was working it with is one of my mentors, but just this really, really smart guy, and psychological stuff, mindset stuff. We were going over, and it was like 9th through 12th grade basketball kids, hopeful to play college. And one of the things he gave them, because these kids asked, like, how do I get out of a slump? My confidence is low, all those things. And one of the things he said was, like, you should go clip all of your best highlights and watch them daily. And like, not even, you said self-serving, not in like an egotistical way, but literally, I have one of my best friends, his dad played on the PGA Tour, and he's always like, he's been a pro golfer his whole life. He was always like, I got to put positive images of myself doing well all the time. So he would just like watch his best swings. In chat, my buddy would tell these kids, like, go watch your best shots. Just like see yourself making shots over and over and over. So I do think that's like an important thing, and coupled actually probably with like a stoic principle, which is also visualizing yourself like making mistakes and how you respond to those things, but which I think is a big part of, I mean, any sport, of course, especially at a higher pressure level where like you're on center playing for like championships, like our gold medals, like damn near every weekend. So how is that for you? Like, and we're going to get back to the question at the very end that you asked me, but this is how do you, maybe here's a better question for you. What's your like mental like work look like, or preparation look like, or how do you handle pressure of like, I know your expectation is to win a gold medal every weekend. Like, otherwise, why are you playing, for you? So how do you approach that?
It's funny. It's interesting because so like the morning before, like when I play, sometimes I'm in the car. I actually was doing this subconsciously. I never really did this on purpose, like knowing that it was good for me. I just would watch my best matches sometimes, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. I would go back and I would watch when I beat, Pickleball Will and Chris 1 versus 2. I would watch that back, and I'd watch, but really I would watch like some of my best matches, like, and I just did it for fun. I did it just to kind of get me in that mindset. And
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to do it, because I play my best when I'm not really thinking much at all. I'm just going out there. And that's actually why I move my feet so much, because the more I move my feet, the less I think. So any thought that I have, I just focus on my feet, go right back to the feet, almost like I'm like meditating.
Good, yeah.
So that's what I do.
That's
And yeah, I mean, the other thing too is like, I think it's important for me to have like reset methods in between points, because it's really easy for me to get caught up in like these different narratives of like, oh, well, I better beat this team. Like there's expectations now. And I feel like it's really bad to even think about expectations of like, even if positive, negative, I just have no expectations. I'm just not thinking. I just reset in between the point. Like sometimes this is a little weird, but like sometimes in between points, if I'll like inflict some pain on myself. So like I'll hit myself with the paddle. Like I'll hit myself here just to keep myself right in the moment. So if I start thinking, hit myself. It's a little weird, but it actually helps. So
yeah, I think that's an interesting thing. I mean, it's like in any sport, you don't want one mistake to compound into two.
yeah.
And so like you miss a return, then you miss, the next ball you hit. I mean, I've been like thinking about other stuff similarly from like a breath standpoint. Like I've really started to dive into breath work and like focused breathing, even like pre-match, in match, which like most of my life I was never taught anything about breath. I'm currently like learning how bad of a breather I've been, which probably most of us are in actually a lot of ways. And just like, I think you would actually probably find this interesting. But especially in tense matches, I read a great Twitter thread on this the other day, but like when we start to feel the pressure, our bodies are like literally physically starting to tense up. And it's why like when people say like, oh, they were tight, like tight isn't just tight is nervous, tight is like you're holding the paddle tighter, and then all of a sudden you're gonna pop a dink or whatever. But what I've started to learn more is about like breathing in between points. Shoot, even like breathing. One time I was sitting courtside and Jessie was like forehand dinking. This was like in a really tight venue, and she was exhaling. Tina Pisnik does this on every single ball. She's exhaling on every single ball. And one thing I know now is like your breath is literally calming the tightness in your muscles so you don't get as tight, right? And so anyway, that's like something I'm thinking about. But I mean, just really anything. I mean, I played college basketball, you played college tennis, just like anything to get a 1% advantage. So like be a little bit better, especially as the pressure is mounting. So that like pain thing is interesting. I'm gonna start just like punching myself in the head. James said it.
That's only if I'm really, because like sometimes I don't know if you have this when you play, but if you get a little tighter, if things start to matter a little more, like if it's 8-8 or something, or like 10-10, you might start to think more. Like my mind will think like, maybe I should call a timeout. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. I've found invariably that is not the right idea. You don't want to think any more than you were at 0-0. Like for me, it's probably better to be thinking less, but I just want to be always in the moment. So if my thoughts really start to run wild, I'll pinch myself, and then it actually will take my attention. It'll kind of center my attention to the now instead of like some like thought world,
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it.
Make it a little more obvious so we can get some like clips for this podcast. You just like Colin, who's going to edit this, is going to be he's a Selkirk guy, so he's going to be in California, where we're going to be going a couple of days. Probably already happened when you listen to this pod, but just like get a couple times in a match, just be like boom and point over to Colin, just pinch.
Yeah, or like I'll like miss a serve in the match, just
There's a good bit that we could make out of that. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, your question like 30 minutes ago was what was your question was how to balance, what was it, pickleball? And
because you're like a content guy also. The people want to know. You're you're signing 15 autographs a day. You're a famous content guy.
Who do you think has more people, humbly we say this, come up to them at a tournament? Like how many people do you like come up to you and like take a picture with you?
I think like probably you, because you're more approachable. Me, I'm a little
You're over there in the corner just slapping yourself in between matches, and someone's like, I'm not gonna talk to that guy.
Yeah.
He's over there just beating his head up against the wall. James, you good? He's like, yes, semifinals coming up. Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, balancing it, truthfully, I enjoy trying to get better more. And it's kind of an interesting thing. Like a lot of content creators, very few content creators are like doing the sport, like in basketball, like at a high level, like basketball, like Steph, JJ Redick started the podcast. That's a little bit different, but he wasn't like, a lot of times people start at the top and then they do content, but very rarely I started basically with content and then I'm trying to do the other thing, which is play. So I think that's a little bit more rare, but I go to sleep at night thinking about, like, should I be hitting drops more to the middle, or should I be like doing a lob more? And like, that's what I like get excited about. And I love content like a ton. It's one of the things I've enjoyed for 5 or 6 years. And it's actually interesting. Like I watch so many matches, one, because I love to learn, but two, when I watch a match, like I am constantly like screen recording or like cutting clips, because I'm like, holy cow, like I have a Dropbox folder of like 50 categories of pickleball topics. And just like backhand dinking, or like Ernie positions, or like left side Ernies, right side Ernies, men's doubles, mixed double strategy, like anything you can think of, I probably create a category. And part of it is so like when I go make a video, I have clips I can take and I can like give the people who are going to watch the video a little bit more context. But one thing I've realized is I'm probably one of the only people in the world doing it like that, because I'm always thinking about a video. But in doing that, I'm actually just like double thinking about a topic. And so it's a benefit to me. And so while I care about playing, I'm always thinking about videos and getting to teach some of these concepts. Like I made an Ernie video, and very few people, like I was actually really, you should go watch it. It's one of the only videos.
I wouldn't have given you so many.
Well, what's interesting is I hit like that. The reason that we both earned each other like 50 times was because like when the left side player crosses over the split line and like goes to dink it with their forehand, and they dink it like inside out, basically, that's always an Ernie, right? And like, but it's so crazy to me because the only people who I ever see do that, Riley does it occasionally, Ben does it occasionally. Tyler Loom doesn't really do it because it doesn't work on the right side as much, because like, right. So I think like of the only 4 people in pickleball really doing it are like me, you, Ben, and Riley. That's a good category to be in. You're really well. You should be honored. But it was like when I hit those dinks to you, I was like, I've made a whole video on that. So it was actually really surprising to me when you did it to me, because I'm like, nobody does this. I do that to other people, right? So I think like, but I made a video on it, and I thought really deeply about it, because anytime I make a video, I had to like make the notes. I got to go film the video. I got to work on the edit. And so I think back to your question of balancing, I spend more time training than I do making videos. Like I'll go on a binge and make like 3 or 4 YouTube videos, but I'm thinking about videos all the time. It's like it's where my brain goes. And but my ultimate goal is really to play at the highest level. It's just so much fun. Like I want to become a top 10 player. It's a goal of mine. But like more than anything, I'm obsessed with practice. I love to practice. I love going out and like getting better.
That's how it starts.
In my head, what's that?
That's how it starts. That's how getting
good. That's how it starts. And so it's like, I'm like almost 2 years in, and I'm still just as obsessed with the game. And I just constantly, even when I go out and suck in a tournament, I'm just like long game. Like I'm just gonna, Penn and Teller, those magicians, have this quote. It's something like, part of what has made us great at Magic is we just spent an inordinate amount of time doing Magic, and everybody else kind of gave up sooner, And so like my mindset is like, I don't become as good of a player as you. Like you spent 20 years hitting a tennis ball. I spent 20 years becoming a good basketball shooter. So like, to me, I can't compare myself to someone like you to improve that fast. Cause I'm doing things well, but like I played 6th and 7th and 8th grade tennis. And then I played basketball the rest of my life. So like, but I do think over a long enough time horizon, like even though I'm struggling at times, or I'm like, I'll win a match, then I'll lose a bunch of tournaments. I'm just looking like, okay, in the next 3 years, where am I going to be? In the next 3 years, of course, there's more players that are going to be in it, but like this is my approach. Nobody's going to be smarter than me about the game. So like, I think right now my mind is actually ahead of my execution on certain things. And I think a big part of that's actually because of the content. Like I just spend so much time thinking about the game and I love it. So it's a balance of just like playing a lot, making some videos, playing a lot, making some videos. But it's a blast, man. I'm having like the time of my life right now. And even when I'm losing or like playing horrible, just like, it's so fun. And like, I wouldn't want to do anything else.
Yeah, me neither. I couldn't think of anything I would want to do. But I think you're right on that. I think that the improvement curves of people that played tennis like me and people that didn't play tennis are just way different. Like I was a 5-0 after 3 weeks. So it's not, you can't compare anybody that played tennis to somebody that didn't. Like if you look at like a Dylan Frazier, right? Dylan Frazier started off as a 3-0. He never played tennis. He never did that stuff. And then after like, 8 years or something, he's at the top of the game. So
for sure, it's like I started off playing 4-0. Like my first tournament was a 4-0 tournament, and I got like 6th place out of like 5 teams. I was that bad, and so it was. I like just, but like that. But I literally, I kind of like the way it happened for me because I think when other people look at it, I mean, everyone in life just like looks at the end result. It's like I want that now. Like I look at your results and I'm like, I want those results. But also I remind myself like I played 4-0 for a bunch of months. And I played 4-5 for a bunch of months. And then I played 5-0. And then I like won like 4 or 5 5-0 tournaments. And I was like, all right, I'll start doing pro. And like, it's the hardest time it's ever been to be trying to do what I'm trying to do. And even what you're trying to like stay at the high level in the game, but it's like, it's the hardest. It's the easiest it's ever been. And it's also, or what's the line? It's the hardest it's ever been right now. But it's the easiest it'll ever be.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, it's a great time to be in it. And also like, it's going to be freaking hard over the course. But at the end of the game, like I'm just in it for the long term, like infinite game. I want to be a top 10 player. That's a goal of mine, but I'm not trying to be there. I'm not going to be there, in 2 weeks. It's like, I got to look out and just work. And if I don't get there, it's kind of like, I'm living a dream right now. And like, that's what success is for me. It's like, of course there's numerical things I want to do and all that. I mean, sending you to the back draw in 2023 is still a New Year's resolution that I nearly got last 2 weekends ago.
I know that was a tight one, but I think you're right because it's like, when I started playing, like when I first, like 2 years ago, when I was just playing, I wasn't playing to be the best. I was just playing because I was obsessed with pickleball. Because 2 years ago when I started, being a pro pickleball player, I didn't even know that the number one player could make over 6 figures. I was just playing because I was obsessed. And I think that's why I got good because I just played every single day. I watched every single day and it was just genuinely fun. And I think that's the thing. Like if it's genuinely fun for you, you're going to be engaged. Like you're going to be focused because you can't.
It's hard to, go ahead.
Yeah, you can't not be, right? Like you can't be having fun and be thinking about something else. Like that's the nature of having fun is that you are fully engrossed in what you're doing. So
I do think that's like, I look at you and your acceleration. It's not like other tennis players could look at you and actually be like, oh, like this James played at Vanderbilt. Like I played at ex SEC school, or I played college tennis. I could do that too. And that interesting thing, I think it's like actually a good life principle that the fun thing, part of the reason I think you got good so quick is yes, you had physical tools, but having the enjoyment of the game and like waking up each morning, just like, what is the next thing I'm going to learn today? And it's like every time I still step on the court and I swear I'll film a match, just like rec play and I'll go watch it. And I have a new realization or a reminder of something I totally forgot from 3 months ago. And I think it's just been like, that's when I look at you and you're like journeying through it. It's not surprising you got where you got so quickly just because of when I looked in the back seat when we were in Nashville, you're watching like a 2017 match. It's like, I turned to Will and Chris later that night and I was like, this dude's going to be like top 10 very soon. Like, look at him. He's like, what he loves the game, which is cool. So it's like, that's a testament to you, which is a neat thing.
Oh, wow. You're being so nice to me.
That's the last thing I'm going to say that's nice. The truth is I have hosted this podcast and it's why it's gone so well, but you are improving. I want you to know that. I'm proud of you, son.
I mean, there was a lot of improvement. There was a lot of room for improvement. That's for sure. But, it's crazy. I am such a, I'm obviously an improved host, but in terms of technological abilities, my improvement has gone like 0. And I'm looking at the top of my screen and it says my time left is 21 seconds. And then I have the option to upgrade my Zoom so that I can have a longer than.
I'm seeing 415.
415.
That's why I said time left 4 minutes and 9 seconds. That's how long this podcast has left.
I see 5 seconds, 3 seconds.
Oh no. Oh no.
1 second.
Oh, no.